Hello, party people. Greg Patton here. So, yesterday I started playing the Avengers Beta. Now, this game has had a lot of controversy involving hidden DLC characters, what's going on with the whole Spider Man issue, and today I want to talk about my experiences with it. I want to get through all of the controversy and just focus on what most people care about, which is how does the game play? Let's start with the positives. The one thing that you can definitely take away from the Avengers game so far, I've spent about 5 hours with it, is that Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, responsible for Deus Ex Human Revolution, the Rise of the Tomb Raider game, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider in the last 2 years. Um, Crystal Dynamics loves this license. They are ecstatic with the ability to play with Marvel characters and create their own world using the Marvel universe. They are truly invested, and you can tell just by the love and care they put into the collectibles, such as comic books. And it's a really tough act to follow considering Marvel's Spider Man in 2018 really set a new bar for games based on licenses. This game has a lot of love in it. You can tell in the way that the characters are held in such a high reverence. And there's an interesting thing that happens with the story in terms of you get to play as Miss Marvel, Kamala, and she is basically a fan in the beginning of the game of what I've played in the beta. She's a huge fan of all of the Avengers. Now, after the events of what they call A-Day has occurred, you now kind of feel that the story seems to be going in the hey, let's get the band back together, along with some missing parts here and there. Again, it's a beta. It's only 5 hours I've played of it, but I can definitely say one of the first things is how much love has went into this game. The second positive that I would definitely want you to know about is this is an Avengers game. This is not the Hulk game. This is not Captain America. Every hero is getting their own individual setup. Now, true, we'll get to this a little bit later in the negatives about the combat, but they do have a distinct feel to them. When you play as the Hulk, you feel like you are basically running around as a battering ram as you should. When you play as Captain America, you feel like that you can actually attack from long distances and get closer in combat using the shield in a variety of ways. Iron Man feels exactly like you would expect him to feel from the standpoint of he's going to fly through the air, he's going to become a projectile character who attacks enemies. He does have a little bit of the brawl business, but we'll get to that later. All right, the third part that I really think really tells you how much this game has going for it is Kamala is extremely likable as Miss Marvel. She has some fantastic interactions in the beta with Bruce Banner, with the Hulk, and the fact that she is completely dedicated to the ideal of becoming an Avenger, but she's not insufferable. She's not arrogant. She's not too naive. She's just the right level of enthusiastic for this game. She has some great one-liners that I've seen already. And I'm very interested if I was going to tell you, I really think the single-player campaign for this game has potential. All right, now let's get to the concerns. Now, I'm going to call them concerns. I'm not going to call them negatives because this is a beta. Sure, the game's releasing in less than 4 weeks, but it's still a beta, so I will treat it as such. Okay, I'm a big fan of action combat games, such as the Platinum games, the Bayonettas, the Nier Automatas. I really like my combat, third-person combat action games. Here's where I'm concerned about the Avengers game. It feels very samey in combat. And what I mean by that is you have your face buttons basically are the heavy and light attack. You have bumpers that are your supers. And every character tries to have a unique spin on their combat style. But what you're dealing with in this game is you're going to get to pick who you want to play as the leader of your party. Now, right now in the beta, I don't want to spoil too much, but it's a beta. You only have access to the Hulk and Miss Marvel and later Iron Man. You do get to play the first E3 demo that features Black Widow, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. That's the first thing you get to do in the beta. So you do get to experience what combat will be like. It's a projection of what it's going to be like. The problem is, like I said, it all starts to kind of blend. It feels the same. You're really not doing much in terms of combos. You're not doing anything especially unique with the way that you're fighting. You're just kind of button mashing your way until your supers are ready. Okay, here's the second concern. And this is always when we talk about games like Destiny or games as a service like Warframe, this is always a concern. The enemies feel generic. They feel just paint by the numbers. It's enemy with a gun, enemy with a sword, enemy with a shield, enemy in a mech. And outside of a really good boss fight in the beta with the Abomination, which is like the evil version of the Incredible Hulk that the Hulk gets to fight, there's no real feel of, ooh, these are unique. It kind of feels a lot like the Avengers Ultron movie where all the robots were basically just destroyed as CG characters. Like, it's all they just kept fighting was armies and armies of these robots. Well, in this game, it seems like the robots pretty much make up the majority of the enemies that you're fighting. So it's what you usually expect from this type of game, which is go to an area, unlock this, defeat this many enemies, and rinse and repeat. Now, if you're into that and you want to play with friends, it's great from that perspective. But if you're looking for something you just were like, oh, well, I've seen the robot mech thing done 100 times. Unfortunately, the enemies so far, and this is 5 hours in the beta, outside of one boss fight, are pretty much just mechs with guns, mechs with lasers, mechs with sniper rifles. It's nothing special. Here's the part that is my biggest concern. Anytime you have loot in a game, and make no mistake about it, the Avengers is trying to be Destiny in its menus already. The gear and the loot becomes the most important thing that keeps you playing. It's how they're going to hook you to play the game more after you finish the campaign. You're going to want better and better loot like you're playing Diablo or Borderlands. You're going to want to continue to build your character after the story's over. Here's the problem. The way these games can fail is if the loot is not interesting and it's boring. And unfortunately in the beta, the Avengers game, the loot's boring. It's small increments. There's no real cosmetics that show you a difference. All the cosmetics are locked behind currency that you're going to earn in the game. They've maintained there's no microtransactions, so it's not that kind of game. But we have not seen anything unique in the beta that says, oh, you unlock something special. It's just more like, oh, you're going to do 5% more damage with your heavy attack or 4% more with cryo energy damage. There's just nothing there that makes you want to keep playing for the loot. And in any type of game like this, that's a big concern. The point of a beta is always to get you excited about a game that you've purchased or to make you want to purchase something. So in conclusion, where does that leave me with the Avengers? As I highlighted, I think the game has a lot of potential. But on the other side, I feel that the combat, the characters, and the loot can feel a little samey. Take, for example, when I was talking about that the characters feel unique in terms of the way they play. That's true. But at the same time, think about if you're going to invest a game where you're going to play 40, 50 hours and it's all loot-based and it's all trying to play for better gear, better inventory. You're going to get a little of the same thing, just hitting the bumpers, hitting the heavy and the light attack. And unfortunately, because the combat was a big turnoff for me, I felt a lot of times like I was button mashing into small combos and just waiting for the supers to pop up so that I could hit them on the bumpers and just move on to the next area. The story has a lot of potential. If you're into games like Destiny and Borderlands, you should keep your eye on this game. I think there's going to be some value there for people who like getting together with their friends and playing through these type of games. If you're the kind of person who plays Diablo all of the time based on getting better and better loot, I'm not so sure this is going to be the right game for you. I think in general, the game holds a lot of promise. But I think what we've seen so far and is close to launch, I just don't feel like I can recommend people unless they're big superhero fans. Spider-Man and the Batman Arkham games have set the bar so high for superhero games that I just don't know if Marvel's Avengers is going to actually reach that bar. We're going to have to wait and see, and I would really like to wait in terms of suggesting a purchase on this title as it is right now. I think this game screams wait for a sale. Let them get more content in. Let them announce the DLC characters that are going to be put into the game for free. And for God's sakes, let them figure out the whole Spider-Man fiasco so that if you don't just have to buy it on PlayStation. But hey, that's just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments if you think that the Avengers Beta delivered on its promise, or if you're going to wait for a sale. And if you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe.